Good evening. I'll call the Regional School District 13 Board of Education Work Session, March 26, 2025 at 6:08 to order. Rise for the pledge. Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's light out. Too light out for us. Sign of spring. Number two, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add number 5. Motion and vote to add Dr. Charles to the by John. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, for number 3, public comment, do we have any in-person public comment? A lot of people here. Okay, do we have any online public comment? If you could raise your hand if you are online and would like to speak. We give it a second because we don't have a second. I don't see any online. We'll move on to number 4. Oh, we'll do fast. 2025, 2026 budget discussion. So I think where we left off last time, we had some potential ideas and some good conversations around the budget. And we said we wanted to look to Dr. Charles to see if she could come up with some reductions in the budget or some changes for the board. I want to give you that chance if you can, and I know how hard it's been. This is
I don't want the chance.
yeah, she doesn't want the chance, but I know it's really hard. And just even before we get to that, Bob and Dr. Charles and Kim and I had a meeting with the Durham's Board of Selectmen and their finance director. They talked about some of the pressures that are going on with them. We've gotten a lot of calls, a lot of emails from Middlefield and Durham. And we kind of let them know that we need this earlier in the year. You know, we need to be talking about some of their pressures and issues come, September. They want to put in place, some sort of model where we have that discussion in September, talking about short-term issues in town, long-term issues, so that we can collaborate a little bit more on budget and have an earlier discussion. So we're not hearing the very loud pressures last minute when we're so close to budget. And we get it because they're in the middle of budget session, just like we are. So I think some of the concerns and pressures from the town are now just coming into place because they're at the point where we are with our budget. So we definitely heard them and had some good discussions and hopefully work in that process.
What makes it difficult to get this at this point is, I've spent the couple of months that I've been here getting to know people and listening to their wants, their desires, their hopes. And, we've talked about the curriculum director, we've talked about team leaders and, vertical alignment and all of these things that are so important. And yet right now we're looking at cuts rather than additions. And so it's, I know that it's so difficult for all of us, for the staff though, because they know everything that that we're capable of doing. And it's just unfortunate that we're in the situation that we are. So I with reluctantly, this is the list that I've come up with. The district climate specialist, which is a position that we said that we really wanted and need, and I still believe that it's a position that we need, but I'm looking at cutting that for this year because we will be doing a lot of professional development. And so we can do the climate spectral development and the restorative practices and that type of thing. And hopefully then you can add the climate specialist after that. The next one is a really tough one. The curriculum director. We know we need a curriculum director. It has been said over and over again to me from teachers and from parents. And so I'm not looking at eliminating it. I'm just looking at delaying bringing it on. We know we're going to have a new superintendent in a couple of months. And we want that superintendent to get the lay of the land and to really look at what our needs are and let that person have a role in selecting the next director of curriculum. So I'm asking for a delay in that. The next one would be removing one of our coaching positions. I believe we have 5 instructional coaches and 1 learning centered coach. We need to look at the coaching positions and potentially take one of those. I think we need to look at removing 1 related arts position. And so, you know, we're looking at the numbers and if there is a way that we can consolidate. We have a summer enrichment program that has been budgeted. And so we would not run that. I believe it was proposed previously and didn't run. We have the money in the budget. We've had some difficulty, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Liza, but we've had some issues with getting people to fill those positions. So we would utilize that money in order to reduce the budget. The next 2 areas really are around professional learning, just reducing $25,000 in the professional learning and in course reimbursement. So the total of all of those reductions would be $430,000. So it's basically, am I correct, 1 percentage point thereabouts.
So Kim, do you want to? Yeah.
Well, I can just expand on that. The health insurance has already been adjusted by 107,000. So that plus what Dr. Charles just said, we're bringing the budget down to 3.87 gross and 4.33 net.
Were we looking at reallocating any of the capital?
Yes, you want to go through those?
Yeah.
So VFD, is that video?
It's variable frequency.
Variable frequency dies, close but no cigar. So we would be looking at reducing that by 10,000. The press box fob would be another 10,000. All of these actually are 10,000. The turf reserve, the track reserve, the football scoreboard reserve, all of those would be a reduction of 10,000. 30,000 would be from athletic fields. And the tennis court reserve would be 55,000. And the adding to the track replacement is 120,000.
So the tennis court reserve, the 55,000, that actually will be allocated to the track replacement that we talked about in the last building committee, that the 120 was not enough. We needed closer to 170. So that 55,000 will go in. So the track that we spoke about earlier, the reduction Dr. Charles said of 10,000, that was this reserved for future years. So the track still is on schedule to be done in the summer. That 55,000 we needed to increase. So it's went from 120 to 175 to cover the track. That took away from the tennis courts. And if I could just back up to the other, the things that Dr. Charles said, that totals to 80,000 prior to the tennis court. What we would like to propose is to put that money towards a special education reserve fund. we can put the money in, it's a non-lapsing fund. They changed it in 2024 so that you can save for unanticipated special education. You can do it for employee health insurance. There's a bunch of different reasons you can put it in there. And this year we are running over budget in special ed. Will 80,000 solve the problem? Never, but it's the start of a reserve that, I think we should start funding. And it's still part of the 2%, unfortunately. You don't get any more. But that was for that first,
So that becomes a line item under capital, is that lapsing account? Okay.
yes, non-lapsing.
So the total for the gross budget is 42,462,547 for a 3.87% increase. And the net budget is 40,998. I'm sorry, million. 40,998,848 for a 4.33% increase. That's net.
And it's a 1.3% decrease from the original proposed budget.
Right, so that was a lot at once. Do we have any
You don't know
questions on?
what to adopt it, and then we have discussion on it or not? Yeah,
I mean, we can do it under budget discussion. We don't. have
okay,
to.
all right.
Does anyone have any questions on those?
Do we know where that related arts position is gonna come from?
We're looking at a couple of places, but we haven't notified anybody yet. So I prefer not to say at this point.
We're looking like K-8, or is that I think you're asking like at what level?
No,
Like,
I was just asking what position we'd be looking at, and if that's determined because there's like an overstaffing in a certain area, or like, how did that come to be? Or is it from the closure of Memorial and all that? Like, is it based on the numbers? Is it based on enrollment? And that's okay. Like, I know I'm putting you on the spot, so I apologize for that, but it's.
Oh, I think there seems to be some play
Okay.
in the number of classes, and whether we could put the pieces together to get a 1.0.
Mhm.
And the other one, looking at a different way of configuring for that particular area.
So it's more piecing together at 1.0,
Yes.
possibly. Okay.
So I mean, I'm not supportive of all of, like, coming back to the table of what we can cut. I actually am like shocked that we're looking at a curriculum director, and also, I guess a big one for me would be removing any coaching whatsoever, because given the scores that our district has right now and how we're trying to improve where we are standing wise, I would think that if anything, we're adding coaches, not taking away. So that's like a huge no for me. If you talk about like projects like the track and the tennis courts, and when I compare that compared to a director of curriculum, I just think that our priorities are a little skewed. I understand the reasoning of waiting for the official superintendent, but what we're telling our staff then is that they're waiting another full year.
No,
No,
we're
no,
not
it's-
talking about that. We're
it's in the
talking about
budget.
waiting a couple of months.
So are we removing?
No, we're putting the
No,
curriculum
no,
director in,
It's a
but not,
delay.
it's a delay of a couple months to allow the
So we
superintendent.
still need the money in
Couple months
there,
of Salary.
right?
Yeah.
Right, just
Not
not
at
a full,
100%.
it's not a full position, because we're less a couple months, so the superintendent can hire them.
So what exactly are we cutting? What's the
couple.
savings?
A couple.
The savings
It was
is
86,000
86,000.
be a couple months of the salary plus benefits.
I think more like just to, because I was in the same, I think that when you listed these, I was under the assumption initially that they were all cuts that you were listing, but I think the curriculum director is like a
A partial.
plus 0.5,
Yeah.
right?
Or-
Or a plus whatever.
6 or
So that's actually now, that's not it wasn't in the budget the last time we talked,
Mhm.
and now it is partially.
Yeah, it's actually.
No,
addition.
it's, so there's two learner assistant directors.
Yeah.
And Stephanie's leaving,
Mhm.
so instead of that curriculum director will take Stephanie's
Okay.
open position, so there didn't need to be any budget for that in terms of, other than maybe different salary range, but there's no new position there. So that would just be a delay of maybe hiring in September or October as opposed to July 1st.
And is
So it's
that
not a full year.
Is that like the role, the hiring,
Director of
the
curriculum.
job description would be director of curriculum? Yes. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Sorry, Maura, I think I.
No, I mean, that makes me feel a lot
No, I'm
better.
glad you.
I still kind of feel like it's like peanuts compared to the budget. I mean, it's kind of almost, I get, okay, so we saved a little bit. The coaching is, I would like to see us not cut any coaches at all. If anything, add them. I did see the letter that came just today from the Middlefield first selectman, and I do think that he had a lot of great points as far as, and maybe you guys can touch on this. Because there were some things that I mean, again, I'm not a financial person, so I am always appreciative of people who point out some other places that possibly we could look at. But I think his last suggestion of maybe possibly allocating the 5 million from the capital reserve, and saving it and waiting for after the memorial expansion to focus on that. And
Was that sent to everybody?
your thoughts?
It was? Yeah.
I didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
Oh, and maybe he just.
I thought he
the
sent it to
Middlefield.
everybody.
So,
Can you forward it to everybody?
I think the capital reserve fund at 5 million, we cannot allocate that to general education
Okay.
expenses because it's already been tagged for all the projects. And then there's bonding money in there for Brewster that we have not done the work because we're gonna close the school. When, and I've answered all this and I didn't share it, I shared it with Dr. Charles to look at, and she hasn't even seen it yet, I'm sure. But when when the bonding package was put together, the thought of the expansion renovation memorial never brought up. We weren't gonna close Brewster or gonna close Lyman. So we had to budget for repairs at Brewster, or replacement of systems. Then the narrative changed to then closing Brewster. So we do have money in the capital reserve under the bonding that was to do work at Brewster. We're not gonna do work at Brewster if it's going to be closed. But you can't just take those funds and roll them over into general education. What I see that I think he's asking is, he says, in addition to the 800,000 that we're putting in for capital, he says there's 500,000 worth of equipment. Well, that is not, that's software, which is labeled as equipment based under the uniform chart of accounts. And I mean, there's software in there, there is computer hardware, there's small equipment such as vacuums, dehumidifiers, that's 3 AED machines. So that's not what he thinks it might be. So that's actually software and equipment. We cannot take that 5 million. What we can do, once we have a resolution to that Brewster will be closed and we don't need to do any repairs at Brewster, then talk about that bond money. Part of his letter was, well, how come you have all this bond money and you haven't used it yet? We've used a lot of it. We did the culvert, we did the work at Memorial, we've done most of the work. We haven't done work at Brewster, which is about $2 million.
And where does that go if we don't use it for Brewster?
So there's a couple different, whether the legal use of it is we can use it through other projects that were in the bond package. So if we needed money for ADA repairs, which is something that we were talking about, we'd be able to direct those bond funds to ADA. Or it can be paid back. So it's up to the board can decide how to use it.
Okay.
But not until we have a resolution on it.
It would be too premature at this point, until we know what Brewster's.
It reduced the debt service on their bonding. Probably the most cost effective way. Oh,
Could piggyback off of Maura, and talking about the coaching position. There's, the interventionists are the folks that work directly with students. So they would be the ones working with kids who need extra support. That's right? And the coaches have more contact with staff and admin, right?
That'd still be,
Or are they in classrooms with kids too?
They're in classrooms, am I correct?
So they wear a ton of
Yeah.
hats. They are going into classrooms, they're helping the teachers, modeling instructional strategies for them. They do work with students on occasion, and then they do a ton of things outside of the classroom. They help to analyze the data for the teachers, and then they lead those conversations. They help to lead the PLCs. A lot of times we will pull them to do curriculum work. They will go out after professional learning so that they can come back and train the teachers during PLC. So they have a lot of different responsibilities.
Thanks.
and there's 6 currently. There's 5. So there's, for next year, there'll be 3 coaches there would be 3 coaches under this model would be 3. There's 3 coaches at Strong in the model before today. And then there's 1 at Brewster and 1 at Lyman. And then the Learner Center coach.
It's 2.5 strong
It's
and
2.5.
1.5 Lyman and 1 Brewster and 1 district play.
You also have any other questions or questions?
There's a lot to digest here on this letter that he sent, and a little unfair, to be quite honest with you, at the last moment.
Yeah, and Kim just
To say
went
the
through,
least.
honestly, Kim just went through and answered just about every question in there.
I understand there's, we're looking to, I get that, but I mean, some of these questions have been answered in the past. And I'm just gonna speak openly, it's just a little unfair to be sending this last moment and just kind of arbitrarily putting things out there that have been discussed and have been topic of discussion, not only in building committee, but in regular meetings as well too. So it's a little unfair that it's coming out. But if we also shut down schools like we were supposed to 4 years ago, we wouldn't be in this position. So,
I think that's a hard.
I
part
think
too,
everybody
is
needs to
that's the-
understand that as well too. We're trying to do something here, and obviously this is gonna be a rough year for everyone. We get that. And we're doing our best here. And I don't want to see us lose any positions either. I want to be perfectly clear about that as well too.
It's an extraordinarily difficult year. My experience has been that, we've had a good run with people accepting the budgets. It's been, okay, let's just make it happen. Referendum passes. We've had a very good run. And I mean, yes, there's no question. There's people hurting in these communities. We assume it's all good. It's not. The perception is we have made changes for efficiencies and people are expecting it to happen now. And we know that's not the case. We know we're doing the right things to make it better for the future. It's an extraordinarily difficult year. My fear is even at a 3.87, people are going to say no. And we're going to be, and once the no starts, we've seen it go, no, no, no. That's been my experience that I've been aware of for the budget in this, and we don't want to go down that path either.
Right, because every time it fails, we start pulling from kids and pulling
It
from
just
programs, which
becomes
we don't
more
want to
rare.
do.
We had one no year where people said, no, we want to add more people, and we went back with a higher number.
We don't always know the reason why. No, that's
embarrassing.
true. We don't always
We
know
had
the
it
reason.
only one time,
Yeah.
but that was an odd year.
Is the professional learning money getting reduced because due to people not having used it? Do you know what I mean? Like there's been and this is not a budget specific question, but why isn't staff taking advantage of money for professional development and course reimbursement, right?
I think it was a personalized learning from what it was a line item that Doug had put in for personalized learning. And it might have been earmarked for when certain parts of the action teams were moving in a certain direction that he would use it for that. It just didn't seem like it wasn't being spent or allocated on anything.
Oh, maybe we can have, I don't mean to call
I
them
can
on
just
the spot.
mouth
Steph
that,
can
yeah.
answer.
So, yes. So basically, when Liza and I started, we had a lot of money in budget for consultants. After doing having some discussions with people, it was determined that some of those consultants were not really beneficial to the district anymore. So what we did was we reallocated the funds for those consultants to provide $200 essentially to every staff member, because there are professional learning opportunities that come up that people say, hey, I really want to do this, but we didn't think to budget for it because they're new and just, not something to think of that far ahead. So there is that money allocated. We also have money that we've continued to leave on the budget for certain professional learning that does happen every year, whether it's for individuals or for groups of people. So we make sure to keep that in the budget. But you're right, Tina, a lot of people haven't really been, we constantly say, do you want to throw PD at them? We have a whole Google site that we do post opportunities on. And we do have some people that reach out to us to ask, but we just, over the last couple of years, we haven't even touched
Right.
close
Well, it
to
makes,
the full
right.
amount we've budgeted
Yeah,
for.
so it makes sense that it would get
Right.
reduced if we're not using the money. Is sub pay included in that PD? So like I request challenge teachers conference, it's $200. But I get told I can't go because I don't have sub, like,
That's
is
gonna be
that?
different.
Yeah, we budget salaries for substitutes.
So
So
then,
not
so
one,
that, but
not
that's not,
necessarily
pro-
one-on-one, we base
Right,
it on.
right,
district.
exactly, but this isn't prohibitive, right? The $200 doesn't have to also include.
No.
the sub.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, that's sad, I'm sad about that. But I understand why that would come up then. It's not being used.
There's like 100 some odd thousand in there, right?
Yes, well, I was looking at in-service and professional
Yeah.
development, totaled 150,
Yeah.
but that personal learning, that's something, a part of that.
Do you have any other questions?
I do, just for the sake of not negating, I understand the timing of this, I agree, but, there are some things in here that I haven't been part of the conversation of, so I am curious. Again, going back to, I'd rather see projects or supplies, deleted, but as opposed to staff and positions. I am curious about if this is accurate with the 46% increase in transportation.
So that came from Bob's, that was in his letter too, and I can answer that.
Thanks. And then I
Um,
also am just curious about the supplies, because I'm just thinking, to me, those are what stood out, was transportation and
Yep, so
supplies.
those are both the things that he did bring up too. So transportation, you said it's up.
I'm looking at his
46%.
letter.
Yeah, why is it so high? So there's an increase in outplaced special ed transportation. That's an easy one. We have more unified sporting events this year for 25-26 that require transportation. And obviously transportation rates go up every year. This also includes the cost of propane, field trips, athletics, VOAG, so it's everything. But essentially the largest increase is special ed transportation. We are currently over budget I estimate to be at the end of the year to be over budget in our transportation. Now, that doesn't mean that as we close out purchase orders, as a student may no longer need transportation or whatever the case may be, that frees up funds and hopefully that will zero out. But that's a function of just having more expenses. How do we reduce that? Because that was one of his questions. Our buses our daily transportation is at full capacity. We're trying to keep kids to 45-minute rides to an hour because, that's what we've said. Athletics, they have to go, to their athletic events. There's unified, there's really no easy answer.
No,
Field
but
trips, what do we
they're
cancel
no
field
different than
trips?
what they've been before though, right? I mean, are we transporting that much more to be that much of an increase?
One outplaced student, transportation can be $50,000.
How many outplaced students do we have?
So that's,
Can I just correct, when you're saying special ed, it's not just special ed students,
I was just
all
gonna say that.
students were at a district. They don't have to be special ed.
she's just right. So
So
I
we have
apologize.
students that were transporting that aren't special ed to
Schools.
other schools.
VOAG. Yeah, we have other school, yep. Sound school, so if a student, we do have one student going to sound school that has a 504 or an IEP, so we have to transport. If they didn't, we wouldn't have to transport. So there's various legal requirements for transportation.
Can you send those to us, like broken down as to like where we're transporting that? I just find that incredible that we have that many more students that are being transported. I mean, that's a lot.
I thought we received something Did we receive, I feel like we had a. Maybe not.
Is that on the enrollment? Is that on the
Changes we
enrollment?
made to the strong school busing, did that affect things as well? Did we add routes?
Hoping
or-
to charge that, if we have to add, which we probably will, charge that to the project. One other reason the transportation is over is the buses are contracted at 4 hours a day, but they're actually driving 5 hours a day, because the routes are so long. So that is an increase so we've corrected, that's a budget adjustment for next year. Now, that may change with the change of the tiers too, so, but, they've actually had to have the buses out for 5 hours a day. They only really, was 4 in the past, so now it's 5. So I can try to get you a breakdown.
Yeah, that would be great.
But,
Thanks.
and then supplies, so supplies is not, so the question was, why are supplies up when enrollment's down? But these are not just instructional supplies. This supplies, fuel is a supply, electricity supply, building cleaning, sports, nursing, technology, grounds, all that stuff is all supplies. So it's not just, it doesn't correlate to enrollment.
So I think the question is that there's a 32% increase, not necessarily that it should fluctuate with the decrease in enrollment. It's just the fact that
That
there was
was the
such a
question.
high increase.
You said, why is it up when enrollment is down, was the exact question, but.
Okay, mine is why the 32% increase.
I'll go back and pull out my
Okay.
notes from other meetings, but, 32 sounds like a lot of percentage, but we had one question, why did one sport go up 100%? Well, because it went from $200 to 1,000, you know what I mean? So it's all relative, so
Right.
while 32 might be alarming, and give me a minute to. pull
Yeah, no
out.
problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Or if you have a new course that's running that is supply intensive, that is going to impact the budget. And I know I had asked a question about that. And the hill that I will, I will fall on the sword, or the hill, whatever the metaphor is. I don't think that we should open the door, like supplies are supplies. I don't think there are any teachers that are padding their supply budgets and asking for, more of whatever. I trust that what people are asking for is what they need. I also believe that if we are going to fund education, that we are going to fund the supplies that are necessary. We're not going to be one of the districts that charges kids to make a cutting board. You bring in $20, you can make a cutting board. That's not what we do here. You want to take a foods class and bake a cake, you pay for your own ingredient. That's not what we do here. Our children get their education fully funded, and if that means that their supplies in their classrooms are a little bit more, then
I agree. And I do I pride that we are that district. I mean, we used to do the supplies. I taught at Brewster where we would have everybody bring their $30 worth of markers and crayons so that we saved ourselves money. So I'm glad we don't do that. But again, my question is just why it's such an increase when we haven't changed students. And I don't think we've really even changed offerings of programs, or really, I don't think anything's changed from last year to this year. So
The student supplies though are a very, very small piece. I mean, even if the teachers looked at their supply lines and they cut them, it wouldn't amount.
when you
Very
tell me
much.
you want to cut to coaches, then that's why I want to kind of really look at maybe there's other places
No, I hear
that this
you.
year we might need to be a little tighter,
Mhm.
because to me, it's more important, I think, for the district to be having these coaches and maybe even add coaches, not delete them, as opposed to worrying about if everybody has a supply for a cake mix or a cutting board. So I'm just saying we might have to kind of prioritize a little more. We have 2 letters from both selectmen. Both of them not agreeing with our budget, requesting we're the taxpayers that we all were voted on here for to lower our budget significantly.
Well, that's
So-
what we've done.
I don't know if it's, I wouldn't, I don't know, to me, I don't think it's significant enough for it to pass.
Just to counter that student supply budget, and again, I'm not suggesting we do this, but it's something perhaps to have a conversation about in the future. The world that I live in, yes, I teach in the tech school system for the state of Connecticut. Well, my budget that I get to buy food and supplies for the upcoming year is based on what we actually generate for revenue. I know it's a very different world to live in. We can't do that here. We're not a trade school, but every penny of food that I sell this year is what I get to have next year, and it works actually pretty good. DECA can help out with that, just, again, it's not an easy thing to sell things to teachers and to community members, but it might be a conversation to have to maybe offset some of these expenses. And I know it's a small thing, but that's the world I live in personally. And the better we do, the more the students learn. We have more money next year to buy real fish and learn how to fillet them, because it's really expensive. That's
So
the world of it.
is up by my records, by the book, 14.62%, not 32%.
Maybe this is a combined, I'm not sure.
Don't know. And that is due to, there was an increase in, the food, program at Strong, is very popular, so we had an increase in the food for that. We have a robotics, another robotics team, not another team, but we have more kids, so we have, Cog and Strong, the robotics increased. Let me see, baseball uniforms we're buying this year. We had to recondition more football helmets. We have a kind of a cycle that they get, and a bunch of them were up for reconditioning this year. And then we had, facilities and grounds, electricity is in there, electricity, the public benefits, $40,000, $50,000 higher. That supplies also includes books, library books were up by 5,000. There were new textbooks, that, I don't want to say the wrong thing because I know what the Student Achievement Committee, I want to say it was AP Chemistry. Don't shoot the messenger if that's not right. And then statistics, there was some math statistics and electronic subscriptions. So I'm glad I got this. Our auditors were in, and there's a new GASB 97. They started at 1. And it is now that how electronic subscriptions are classified. And if it's less than a year, it's a supply. If it's over a year, it's software leases. So we had an additional 56,000. So I'm glad I can get this out there. 56,000 in increase in our supplies this year because we took the subscriptions and properly classified them. New GASB, not that they weren't properly classified before, but anything under with just a 1-year subscription. So if it's say Power School and you've got a 3-year subscription, that would still stay where it was. These get moved to supplies. So that was an increase of 197,000 total.
And I guess my last question would be if you guys, and I don't know if this is for you, I know you're newer, who can answer this, but if we were to take the budgeted projects that we'd have, is there something, what would you say could be something that could be held off for the sake, again, of the request of our selectmen and the taxpayers of the town in order to pass our budget, which is always our ultimate goal? Is there anything that we have budgeted that you would feel that possibly could, when we have the schools closed and we have more money to work with, that we could probably push off for another 3-4 years and not have to budget it in this cycle?
If you're asking me, my answer is going to be the priority areas are a roof at Coggin and roof and chiller at Strong. We have nothing saved for the roof here at Coggin and it's already over 20 years old. I mean, and a roof this size is not cheap. So even 100,000 isn't enough. So that's a priority. And then the roof and chiller at Strong, to me, that's a priority. And then, really that's almost, and then unanticipated building repairs and maintenance, 200,000. That's because we're going to keep our buildings open for another 2 years without doing anything to Lyman and Brewster. We need that, in case something were to go wrong. So, really a lot of the stuff in there has already been taken out to reclassify to that special ed reserve. And I should just call it an outplacement. I apologize, Jen. That's just my lingo. And it is not correct. So the outplace reserve, and to further fund the track needed another $50,000. So I know it's not an answer you're looking for, but I can't in good conscience say cut the roof, and then we need a roof. And it's leaking, and so it's a tough decision the board has to make.
And The tennis court replacement, we took that out, that 55,000 went towards the special ed lapsing.
No, that
Six.
went to cover the additional funds needed for the track.
Okay, so
Because I
the
hadn't
court, so
put
the
enough
tennis
in
court
initially.
replacement went to the track.
Correct.
And then the non-lapsing was from the 10,000, the 10,000s. From the
And the
key fob.
30 for the athletic fields, yes.
And like, I know my daughter who was captain of the track is gonna kill me for asking this, but is the track and the tennis court something that could wait for another 2 or 3 years when we have?
Tennis
already
court's
took
not
out.
getting done.
Yeah, so
They're not this year.
No,
Just took
they're not even in,
Just
Took
took it
it.
out.
they're not even in the equation.
That went to the
Well, that
track
makes me
because the
feel-
track's not.
Yeah.
That, I thought I saw that.
And the
Okay.
The only thing we're
court-
doing to the tennis
The
courts
tennis
is,
court replacement is $1 million project.
Right.
That's gonna have to be
Yeah.
bonded for.
Okay,
So
so
saving
I'm thinking that-
55,000
yeah,
away.
the only thing that's being done to the tennis courts is normal repair, because otherwise some kid is gonna get hurt out there.
Right, well-
We don't do,
Definitely not want that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
so tennis court is not even, I don't know where that came out. Tennis court's not even in discussion.
Right,
Yeah.
so it was to
It's-
start a
it's in
reserve
just
for
to
it.
start a
or-
reserve.
Yeah.
And we've had discussions about asking the town to try to help with that. We understand that, but that needs to be done, but not now. We know that.
Yeah, it's ultimately gonna look at, when there's projects that can be put together in a bonding package, we can look at putting the tennis courts into there. Otherwise, we can't save 250,000 every year in order, for how long until we have the track done. I mean, not the track, the tennis courts.
The track is way beyond its life.
And so that everybody knows, and Bob and I are on, there's a few of us on the building committee, the track is something that needs to be done in order for it to preserve it for another 10 years. If it doesn't get done, we could potentially have issues within the next year or so that we'd have to replace the whole thing. So what we're trying to do is Band-Aid it right now so that it'll last us another 10 years. And that's been discussed with all of the experts that we have on the building committee, and that's not to mention all the money the building committee has saved
Yeah.
between the paving, the water pump, and all that other stuff. So
And the track's really just the last allocation, the final
Right.
funding on that is, and then that would go in June, right?
the key
after
fob's been
graduation.
removed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we removed the key
So-
fob, we removed the varsity baseball and softball fields at 30,000.
Only thing that's really left is the repairs for the roof and,
And what stayed in was the concession stand, the money to repair, to bring that up to health code.
I know I've asked this in the past, but what are we looking at for unfunded mandates?
Oh, yes, I'm glad you asked.
Because that adds to all the
So-
work.
Reference this with, I don't think anybody in the state has ever tried to put a number to this because it is absolutely hard, very, very hard to do. Even the lawyers, they say, here's what they are. But nobody can put a dollar figure to it. So Tippy and I did our best. What we know unfunded mandates are. Now, there's one with transportation, and there's a number without transportation, because transportation is an unfunded mandate, but it's not unreasonable that we would transport our kids. So I did one with it and one without it, just regular transportation. And it comes up to be 18 to 22% of our budget. So per student, if you don't include transportation, it's $5,759 a student, or $7.5 million. If you do consider transportation to be an unfunded mandate, it's 9.1 million or 7,000 a student. Again, these are my best guess. This does not mean, but it's as close as I can get. Some things are variable in terms of, like a DCF placement or a homeless child coming in, like, you don't see those coming, so, you might not have any now, but how do you account for that? It's variable. Then there are some that are easy, to put a price tag to, the tuition, VOAG tuition, special ed transportation, superintendent's unfunded mandate. The professional development, we have to give 18 hours, certified staff 18 hours. So those are the things I can compute with ease. But there are some ones that are variable, and we took our best guess at it. So we
And
can
just a perspective in talking about the unfunded mandates and talking about how much sped is costing every district. Astronomically, a lot of it's just coming from sped. If you look at the CASBO numbers for all of the districts in the state, of them, 83 of them are above 4.5% for the Board of Ed budget right now.
And with that,
And
The
some of them
funding-
as high as 21%.
and with the funding that the state is supposed to be giving for to individuals, bless you. we get nothing in
Get back
comparison,
100,000, and even that.
We get
still
nothing in
budget that
comparison to
fully,
other
that's
districts.
More that goes.
which
yeah.
doesn't help either, which if we did, it would help with this number as well.
If they fully funded their, excess costs, it'd be great. If they gave more, it'd be great. If they increased it, but they don't even fully fund it. They fund it at like 60%, 65%.
If you guys, if you want, if anyone wants a comparison, you can throw out a district, I can look it up if it's alphabetically. They're all pretty indicative. I mean,
It's the regionals, what are they?
of the regionals, it's not done by regional, so old line 7.40, region 18, 7.42.
Those are passed or proposed.
No, that's Board of Ed, so the superintendent budgets were higher, this is what the Board of Ed budgets were. Couple haven't reported for regionals. There's no way, they don't put this out by regionals, do they, Kim?
No, I sort it by regional, but on my Casbo group, we all report and then I sort it just by regional. Do an average, so I've got 4.6% as regional average.
Average.
5.5 is statewide and 507 is our DERG, which people don't really talk about DERG anymore, but just if you wanted to know that.
And there's some neighboring districts, I think Madison's is lower this year, not that it's a regional, but it's one of their neighbors, so when it comes out in the news, but they're also finally seeing the realization of the budget that we'll see in 2 years when we can reduce, because they're closing schools different next year, so.
And they also have economic development there that we don't have.
They're at 2.46, so they're one of the lower districts.
Did they close the school? Huh?
They're closing too.
I've got New London up at 12.6, not that we're New London, I'm just saying there are, other districts that.
That's Branford at right now.
Branford, if they record
Because
it,
they're looking to close 2 schools as well too in the next couple of years. So where are they at?
Branford is 681, but their Board of Ed cut it to a 5.8. So the superintendent 6.8, Board 5.8.
What about Adam Killingworth?
I was trying to find HTA, but I don't think they're done yet.
Regional what?
They're 17.
Regional 17, 3.7. And that's the superintendent budget. I don't have anything for the Board of Ed.
Yeah, I don't think they've finished it yet.
They're trying to make schools now.
We only have the higher levels, right? What is it?
Right.
Preschools?
How many schools in each? Anybody?
How many schools?
How many
in
schools in
chaos?
each? Adam Killingworth? 3?
They closed, they have 2 elementary school, 1 middle and 1 high.
What district?
Yeah, they had 5 and then they closed 1, they closed taken.
They have 4 schools. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Pat, to get this budget down to a 3.87 increase is, without seriously affecting, we have a lot, we haven't cut this many positions in the budget in, well, 10 years anyway, and so it's really tough. To go any further is tough, but, if the towns are looking for more than a 4% increase, or at least, I don't think we can get there without seriously.
You'd have to look at class
Positions.
size.
Huh?
You'd have to look at class size.
We could increase class size, but
Class size.
that would reduce the,
We don't look at class size in this district, like we have.
I know,
It's
but
not
I'm
gonna
I'm saying to get there, to remove more teachers, we probably have to increase class size. If we
Yeah,
had to cut
but that's
further.
not gonna happen.
I'm not saying we should do
No.
that, I'm just saying.
And these 2, just to remind us from the original budget, so these are the changes past that, but we also have the 1.0 special ed addition, the 1.0 special education assistant addition, the reduction at K, which might change if the enrollment for K gets to that size. The reduction in grade 2, the reduction in grade 6, the reduction, the coordinator of student affairs, reduction of a nurse, reduction of 2 secretaries, and a reduction of 3 part-time custodians to make a a 1.0 FTE and a custodian.
A lot of cuts.
Never really done that much in cutting. Like,
And also, with our 9.9% increase in insurance,
Yeah, 994. Yep.
so I mean.
And I think too, we asked for your recommendation because we wanted to make sure that whatever was coming out was going to be your recommendation.
Tim, insurance was 994. What is that in relationship to the budget?
That was the increase.
I'm saying it's like 1% of the budget.
It's,
Well, benefits are 7 million. So the benefits, but that's not health insurance, but that is 17% of the budget. And the bulk of that, probably 6 million of that is health.
Questions? We still have to go to public hearing for it. The numbers could be changed at public hearing, correct, Kim?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. After the public hearing, you'll reconvene and decide what number to put forward to referendum.
the public hearing is on April 2nd.
Mhm.
Well, if no more discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt budget of, what's the numbers, Kim?
Hold on, we have a motion. Hold on.
You have that motion?
You got it.
I have it from Meg, yeah. It's like the same one that's used every year.
I have it. If you can't, you have that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's- here's one.
So to make a motion to approve the budget in the amount of 42,462,547
I have a
And it's
motion.
proposed budget, and I would recommend that motion.
Do you have a second?
second,
Second by John. Any further discussion on that motion?
And that's a 3.87% increase over last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Down from 5.1 something like that.
Lucy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I think under the circumstances with the difficulties with the budgeting, I think that the cuts are tough but reasonable at this point in time.
I'm still not in favor of I think, cutting a coach. Just reiterating. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Lucy,
Lucy, I.
all those opposed?
Me.
Who?
Amy, Maura. And abstentions? Yep. Okay, motion passes. Okay, I have to read
Need the warning,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's another motion after that.
and that's the return.
That is to send it to public hearing.
Okay. Warning of the public hearing, district meeting for the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. Regional School District 13. To the state of Connecticut, Durham Middlefield, Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given to the residents of the town of Durham and Middlefield, which are member towns of the Regional School District 13 of the state of Connecticut, that a public hearing district meeting will be held and conducted by the Regional School District 13 Board of Education on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the library at Cognitive Regional High School. For the following purpose: to present and discuss the proposed budget for the next fiscal year, July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. At such time, any person may recommend the inclusion or deletion of any expenditure dated in Durham, Connecticut, this 19th day of March 2025. Lindsay Dahlheimer, Chairman, Regional School District 13, Board of Education, State of Connecticut. And I have another.
You have it, or do you want?
So move.
We have another motion.
26.
Hmm?
So the 19th, it should be the 26th.
No, that's, because that's the day it's. Okay, let's say 26. I think there's a reason for that, though. What's the other one, Kim?
So it's to make a motion to hold the public hearing on the 25-26 budget in the amount of $42,462,547 on Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025 at 7 PM in the library at Cogentog Regional High School.
A motion? That's a motion to send a public hearing.
Yes.
So move.
Second,
Second.
John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes.
Have we done it in the Bayer auditorium in the past? I'm getting confused, but
We
we
did
haven't
it.
found enough.
Yeah,
people
and
going to
it's
it.
easier virtually for people to hear and hear.
Yeah.
Hearing in the auditorium has been drastically
Yeah.
reduced, so
And there's a play that starts on the 3rd.
Oh, right, there you go.
we don't want to interrupt rehearsals.
So we're gonna do that in here?
I think
Yeah,
there'll be a
we did it here
rehearsal
last
that
year.
night.
There's a rehearsal that night. though.
I think.
Yep.
Starts on the 3rd,
Mhm.
so.
Okay. Do I don't have to read that one. That's just okay.
Do you want a motion for the, to hang on, Mr.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Yeah. Number 6, motion and vote to add Dr. Charles to the Superintendent Search Committee. I know we had discussed this. Dr. Charles is available to join us for the next step. Really like her input. I think we can all agree on that. So I'll take a motion on that.
So moved.
Second. Second by Jason. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
I know, where's Linda? John, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thanks for coming.
Bob and John.